The stories they tell is not truthful. And now people are sitting here believing every Biggie movie that you've seen, they say it's a drive-by. When the witness tell you the car was stood right there at the corner, the car was probably there all night.
It's been more than 2 decades since the Notorious B.I.G. was murdered on the streets of Los Angeles, and yet the case remains unsolved, at least on paper. But in the streets, in documentaries, and in hushed interviews, there's one name that keeps coming up: Suge Knight. On March 9th, 1997, just 6 months after Tupac Shakur was gunned down in Las Vegas, Biggie was killed in an eerily similar drive-by. Sitting in the passenger seat, no bulletproof vest, and no arrests made. Same coast, same silence, and the same storm of rumors pointing back to the man who once ran Death Row Records like a kingdom. The theory? Suge Knight ordered the hit, not with his own hands, but through loyal gang affiliates. Not out of money, but out of revenge. Revenge for the death of Tupac, the crown jewel of his empire. The wildest part? Some believe it wasn't even Biggie who was supposed to die that night. It was Puffy. Over the next few minutes, we're going to follow that theory step by step, from eyewitness reports and LAPD corruption to FBI confessions and prison whispers. You'll hear from former detectives, insiders, and even Suge himself. And by the time we hit the final section, one question will linger louder than ever. Did Suge Knight take justice into his own hands and silence Biggie Smalls for good? Let's take it back to where the war really started. East versus West, the feud ignites. Before we get to the bullets and cover-ups, we have to talk about the pressure that built up long before Biggie ever landed in LA. This wasn't just music beef. This was street-level warfare dressed in platinum chains and magazine covers. By the mid-90s, hip-hop was split in two. On the East Coast, Bad Boy Records, led by Sean Puffy Combs, with Biggie Smalls as its flagship artist. On the West Coast, Death Row Records, run by Suge Knight, riding high off Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and soon, Tupac Shakur. At first, it was just subliminals, diss tracks, ego, competition. Then in November 1994, Tupac was shot 5 times in a Manhattan studio lobby. He survived, but blamed Biggie and Puffy for setting him up. Biggie denied it, but to Pac, that didn't matter. What mattered was that his East Coast brothers didn't warn him, didn't ride for him, didn't speak up. From there, everything escalated. Tupac joined Death Row after being bailed out by Suge. Then came Hit 'Em Up. That track wasn't just a diss, it was a declaration. He claimed he slept with Biggie's wife, threatened Bad Boy's whole team, and basically turned the mic into a loaded weapon. Suge wasn't quiet either. At the 1995 Source Awards, he stepped on stage in front of a mostly East Coast crowd and fired a verbal missile. Any artist out there that wants to be an artist and don't want the executive producer all in the videos, come to Death Row. From that moment, the war was public. Media ran with it. Radio fueled it. The fans took sides. And behind the scenes, real tension, real guns, real consequences. When Tupac was killed on September 13, 1996, after a Tyson fight in Las Vegas, everything snapped. Suge was driving the car. Tupac was shot 4 times. And although Suge survived, something inside him didn't. That's when the whispers started. Someone's gonna pay for this. Puffy's next. Biggie shouldn't come out west. And yet, Biggie came anyway. March 1997. Biggie touches down in LA to promote his new album, Life After Death. He's doing interviews, hitting parties, moving like the king of New York on foreign soil. But no matter how cool he played it on the mic, he knew the West Coast wasn't safe. And what happened just a few days later proved it. It's dangerous in LA. Biggie had no illusions about where he was. By March 1997, he was back in Los Angeles, the same city where Death Row reigned, where Tupac had been murdered just 6 months earlier, and where emotions were still raw. The reason? Promotion. He had a new album, Life After Death, about to drop. And despite concerns from his inner circle, he insisted on showing face. He appeared at the Soul Train Music Awards on March 7th, where the tension in the air was thick. Some fans booed him as he walked on stage. Rumors were flying that Suge's people were watching, keeping tabs on Biggie's every move. Even Puff had told him to keep the security tight. Still, Biggie brushed it off. The public persona was cool, calm, untouchable. But behind the scenes, his team was nervous. One bodyguard would later say the vibe around them in LA felt off, like something was about to happen. That night, Biggie and the Bad Boy crew showed up at a Vibe magazine after-party held at the Peterson Automotive Museum near Fairfax in Wilshire. Celebs filled the place. Security was heavy, but so were the street connections. Several gang members were reportedly in the building, both Crips and Bloods. There were even rumors that someone from Suge's camp was in the parking lot. Then came the final ride. Just after midnight on March 9th, the fire marshal shut the party down early due to overcrowding. Biggie left in a black Chevy Suburban, sitting in the front passenger seat. Puff and others were in a vehicle ahead. At 12:45 a.m., they stopped at a red light on Wilshire Boulevard. Another car, a dark Chevy Impala, pulled up beside them. No one thought much of it, until the window rolled down and the bullets started flying. Biggie was hit 4 times. Chaos erupted, and within minutes, Christopher Wallace was dying in the back seat. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but it was already too late. The immediate suspect. By sunrise on March 9th, 1997, the world knew. Biggie Smalls, gone. Shot in cold blood at just 24 years old, and almost immediately people started asking, was this random or was this revenge? The setup looked too familiar. Tupac had been gunned down after a Mike Tyson fight. Biggie was gunned down after a major industry party. Both men were hitting drive-bys, both riding with close friends, both in high-profile locations, and neither case had a single arrest. LA media began whispering what the streets were already screaming. Suge Knight did this. Sure, Suge was locked up at the time, serving a 9-year sentence for a parole violation tied to the Vegas fight where Tupac stomped Orlando Anderson. But that didn't stop the theory. If anything, it fueled it, because anyone who knew Suge knew he didn't need to be free to make things happen. At the LAPD, the investigation stumbled almost from the start. Key witnesses vanished. Biggie's entourage clammed up. Even security footage was inconclusive. But one thing kept popping up: death row connections. Suge had ties to the Bloods, and many of his associates were still out on the streets, loyal, armed, and angry. Some detectives quietly began piecing together a theory. This wasn't a hit on Biggie the rapper, it was retaliation. Biggie's mother didn't hold back. In interviews, she called out the police for dragging their feet, even suggesting there was a deliberate cover-up to protect someone powerful. Meanwhile, other theories were flying. Some said it was a rogue Crip trying to collect a bounty. Others blamed internal drama at Bad Boy. But the Suge revenge theory, that one had traction. Too much motive, too much symmetry, and too many people afraid to say what they really knew. The question wasn't just who pulled the trigger, it was who gave the order. The Russell Poole theory. Inside the LAPD, one detective wasn't letting this case slip through the cracks. Russell Poole, a respected robbery-homicide investigator, was assigned to dig into Biggie's murder. But what he found didn't point to random gang violence. It pointed straight to the department's own backyard. Poole discovered something wild. Officer David Mack, a decorated cop, had suspicious ties to known gang members and to death row records. Even more shocking, one of Mack's close friends, a man named Amir Muhammad, matched the description of the bow-tied shooter who gunned down Biggie. Same height, same build, same calm demeanor behind the trigger. Poole started pulling on threads. He uncovered that Mack was part of the Bloods-affiliated mob Piru set, the same gang Suge Knight was tied to. He also found out that Mack had been arrested for a bank robbery shortly after Biggie's murder. The pieces were lining up: a gang-connected cop, a getaway driver, a possible hitman, all surrounding death row. But when Poole tried to go public with his findings, the LAPD slammed the brakes. His superiors shut him down, refused to let him interview key suspects. Eventually, they pulled him off the case entirely. Frustrated and disgusted, Poole resigned from the force in 1999. He later told reporters he believed Suge Knight ordered both Tupac and Biggie's murders, and that rogue cops helped carry them out. Years later, the Wallace family filed a $400 million wrongful death lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles, using much of Poole's investigation as their foundation. But in court, witnesses went silent, others were discredited, and the case collapsed under pressure. Still, Poole never backed down. Until his death in 2015, he stood by one belief: Biggie was assassinated, and the LAPD helped bury the truth. Kading's task force. Revenge revealed. After years of dead ends, the LAPD quietly assembled a new task force in 2006 to re-examine Biggie's murder. Leading the charge, Detective Greg Kading. Unlike Russell Poole, Kading didn't go in chasing a cop conspiracy. Instead, he followed the streets, the gangs, the money, the whispers. And what he found shocked even veteran investigators. Kading uncovered a revenge loop, a deadly tit-for-tat between the two biggest figures in hip-hop. According to interviews and wiretaps, Sean Puffy Combs allegedly put out a $1 million bounty on Tupac and Suge back in 1996. That same year, Orlando Anderson, a Crip affiliated with Keffe D, gunned down Tupac in Vegas. And when Tupac died, Suge Knight wanted blood. Kading's team flipped a key witness, a woman known as Teresa Swan, the mother of Suge's child. She told investigators that Suge contacted her from jail and ordered her to pay a hitman. That hitman? Wardell Poochie Faust, a mob Piru blood and one of Suge's most trusted street soldiers. Swan said she delivered the payment. Poochie did the rest. According to Kading, Poochie was the one who pulled up in the Impala and opened fire on Biggie. The style of the hit matched his M.O. Clean, fast, silent. Unfortunately, there would be no confession. Poochie was killed in 2003 in Compton, shot dead while riding his motorcycle. Teresa Swan cooperated, but the case never made it to trial. Even with all this, the LAPD never formally charged Suge. The evidence was strong, but not airtight. Still, Kading believed it was as close to the truth as anyone had gotten. He later released a book, Murder Rap, laying out every detail, and the theory was clear. Suge Knight ordered the hit on Biggie as cold-blooded revenge for Tupac. Suge's defense and street secrets. Suge Knight has denied it from the jump. In interviews from prison, he's claimed he had no beef with Biggie and that he never blamed him for Tupac's murder. In fact, Suge once said, "If I was gonna retaliate, it wouldn't be Biggie. I'd go straight to Puffy." That's the thing with Suge. He never outright says he's innocent. He just implies the hit was either unnecessary or beneath him. But behind the scenes, it's a different story. Mob James, a former death row enforcer and Bloods gang member, has gone on record saying no one could have pulled off a hit like that without Suge's blessing. Especially not someone like Poochie, who was known for only moving when the boss gave the green light. On the inside, Suge still held power through phones, visitors, and loyal lieutenants. And that's why some believe he didn't need to pull a trigger to make Biggie disappear. He just had to speak it into motion. It's classic Suge, indirect, cryptic, but calculated. Even when denying it, he keeps the legend alive. Some call it misdirection, others call it arrogance. There were even rumors that Biggie wasn't the real target. Former FBI agent Phil Carson would later allege that Suge's intended hit was Puffy, and Biggie just happened to be in the passenger seat. That detail changes everything, and yet it also lines up. Because whether it was revenge, mistaken identity, or a deeper play, the end result was the same. Biggie was dead, and Suge's name was written all over the silence that followed. No confession, no charges, just fear, power, and a body count that kept rising. New revelations. The FBI agent speaks. In 2021, a new voice stepped into the spotlight, and it wasn't from the streets or the LAPD. It was from the FBI. Phil Carson, a retired federal agent who'd worked Biggie's case for years, broke his silence in a bombshell interview. He didn't mince words. Carson claimed that Biggie's murder was orchestrated by Suge Knight and that it was covered up by corrupt LAPD officers. According to him, the intended target that night wasn't even Biggie. It was Sean Puffy Combs. Carson alleged that Suge hired Amir Muhammad, a Nation of Islam associate and friend of LAPD officer David Mack, to carry out the hit. But instead of killing Puffy, Muhammad allegedly mistook Biggie. or simply went with the easier shot. Carson said he saw sealed documents, witness statements, and ballistics that all aligned, and believed the LAPD suppressed it to protect its own. For Biggie's family, this wasn't new. His mother, Voletta Wallace, had said for years that she believed the department knew the truth. Carson's revelations reignited public interest and pressure. The filmmakers behind City of Lies, based on Russell Poole's findings, said their own research backed Carson's claims. Even Diddy reportedly was shaken by what he heard. He'd never been officially named as the intended target until now. But despite the renewed headlines, no arrests were made. Amir Muhammad was never charged. The LAPD didn't reopen the case. Once again, another voice joined the chorus of "Suge did it," and once again, the system stayed silent. The theory of revenge, fact versus fiction. So what's real and what's just noise? Let's line it up. Fact: Biggie Smalls was murdered on March 9th, 1997 in Los Angeles. Fact: Suge Knight was behind bars at the time, serving a sentence for a parole violation tied to the fight that led to Tupac's shooting. Fact: multiple sources, from detectives to federal agents, believe Suge ordered Biggie's murder in retaliation. You've got Russell Poole, who pointed to corrupt cops and death row ties. Greg Kading, who said Suge used a Bloods hitman named Poochie. And Phil Carson, who claimed Suge sent Amir Muhammad to kill Puffy, but Biggie took the bullets. That's 3 separate investigations, all circling the same conclusion. Suge called the hit, but there's no smoking gun, no taped confession, no eyewitness willing to testify in court. And the trigger men? Both dead. Orlando Anderson and Poochie were killed years ago in unrelated shootings. Even the civil case filed by Biggie's family hit a wall. Witnesses backed out. Key documents were mysteriously withheld, and in the end, the lawsuit was dismissed. So what's left? Speculation, corruption, a cold case buried under silence. Still, when you connect the dots, the picture is hard to ignore. Suge had motive. Tupac was his artist, his investment, and his pride. He had means, gang ties, loyal hitters, and influence even from behind bars. And he had a message to send, that nobody touches death row without consequences. It's not just about who pulled the trigger, it's about who made sure no one would talk afterward. And that's what keeps this theory alive. Not just the murder, but the machinery around it. The silence, the fear, the trail of witnesses who ended up dead, disappeared, or discredited. Whether you believe Poole, Kading, or Carson, one thing is undeniable. The theory of Suge Knight's revenge isn't a stretch. It's the closest thing to a working truth that anyone's ever had. Still unsolved. The silence that protects more than 25 years later, the case is still labeled unsolved. No arrests, no trial, no justice. And yet, everyone seems to know who did it. The streets have always whispered the same name, Suge Knight. The investigators who got closest all pointed to him. And Biggie's own mother went to her grave believing that powerful people were protected. So why no closure? Simple: fear, silence, and broken systems. The few witnesses willing to speak have either been discredited, intimidated, or killed. David Mack, the corrupt LAPD officer tied to death row, never testified. Amir Muhammad disappeared into obscurity after being named as the suspected shooter. And the gang members who could have confirmed the story, either dead or doing life on unrelated charges. Even prosecutors were hesitant. Too many unreliable witnesses, too many fingers pointed at police officers, and not enough hard evidence that could hold up in court. In 2023, Tupac's case finally moved forward when Dwayne "Kef" D. Davis was arrested for his role in the Vegas shooting. That gave Biggie's family a glimmer of hope. If Pac's killer can face charges decades later, maybe Biggie's will too. But there's a difference. Pac's case had a living suspect ready to talk. Biggie's, the shooter's long gone, and the man believed to have ordered it, locked away on an entirely different charge. Suge Knight is now serving 28 years for manslaughter in a separate hit-and-run case. He's off the streets, but he's never answered for Biggie's death, and maybe that's how he wanted it. No trial, no statement, just a reputation and a trail of bodies. Because in the end, what protected Suge all these years wasn't just fear, it was silence. The silence after the shot. Christopher Wallace, Biggie Smalls, was more than a rapper. He was a father, a son, and the voice of Brooklyn. He changed hip-hop, he told his truth, And in the end, he died for something he may not have even been part of. If the theory is right, Biggie wasn't killed over money. He wasn't killed by a rival artist. He was taken out in a carefully planned act of revenge for something he didn't do. And the man behind it? If you believe the detectives, the FBI agent, the insiders, it was Suge Knight. Not because Biggie pulled a trigger, but because Tupac died. And someone had to pay. That's the tragedy of this story. Biggie's death wasn't justice. It wasn't random. It was a move in a bigger game, a power play with coastlines, contracts, and egos on the line. And yet, decades later, no one's been held accountable. Suge is in prison, but for something else. The shooter is long gone. And the case? Still gathering dust in some cold file cabinet in LA. What's worse, people stopped asking, because the deeper you dig, the louder the silence gets. So now we ask you, do you think Biggie was a casualty of Suge's revenge? Or do you believe someone else was really behind the trigger that night? Let us know in the comments. And if you learned something new or want more stories that cut deeper than headlines, hit that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started. Because in the world of hip-hop history, the truth is always louder than the music.